which is currently running in partnership with UNICEF. And it is a specially designed accelerator to support rapid identification, development, and deployment of ideas and innovations that solve problems posed by COVID-19 coronavirus. It is supported by MIT, SSIP, NSTDB, Industries Commissionerate of Gujarat, AMC, Ahmedabad Smart City, Motwading Jaleja Family Foundation, TIE Ahmedabad, as well as InnoCity, which is by CIIE. So the benefits of this accelerator program is the selected participants will get grants of up to 30 lakh rupees and access to investors. They will get accelerated mentoring as well as access to labs and other implementation bodies, which includes private as well as government bodies, to implement the solutions as fast as possible in this accelerator program. So the deadline is 22nd April, and we have kept this as a continuous scrutiny kind of format where we continuously look after all the applications and take the startups in which we find being fit. So now coming to the session again, I would like to introduce our experts of the today here, Bhavya and Aatur. They are the 26-year-old founders and brains behind SquareOff, the brand that has given the world its first ever automated chessboard. What was conceived as their college project in 2015 went on to become the most successful and largest crowdfunding campaign ever from India, having raised over more than $1.3 million. SquareOff has sold over more than 20,000 boards in more than 70 plus countries. With the vision of revolutionizing the future of games and toys with robotics and AI, this is just the beginning for these young founders. Now, please welcome Bhavya and Gohil, Bhavya Gohil and Aatur Mehta.
And thank you, KO, for the guidance.
Hi. So I would also like to invite our other panelist for today, Mr. Rutvij from Hello Skate Mobility. They are developing an electric scooters which are available for individuals and business on rental basis, and it can be accessed by using their mobile applications. We have Amish here from Visity. So Visity is a visitor management startup which gives a seamless user experience for the employees as well as visitors, thereby eliminating the need for maintaining physical registers and books. Okay. So we will also be joined by one more panelist. I think she is not able to get to the meeting yet. She's Radhika from Futuristic, and she runs a startup focused on designing and developing low-cost home automation solutions, which are explicitly made in India. So with this, I would like to hand over the session to our panelist, Mr. Amish, and we can start the session and the discussion of how to build great products and on crowdfunding. Over to you, Amish.
Yeah, Keo, thanks a lot. Mr. feels a little too formal. It's just Amish. Amish will do. Thank you for the introduction, by the way. It was a nice elevator pitch. I can probably incorporate that in my own introductions. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. I have got my cup of chai. I don't know about you guys. It's 5 p.m. So we'll just get started with questions. Sure. Bhavya and Aatur, thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome. Great.
Thank you for having us, guys.
Thank you for...
Pleasure. Okay, so my first question to you guys is, tell us about your early days. How did the both of you meet? And how did you decide that, this is something that we want to do?
Right. So we both actually studied together. We have done electronics engineering from Mumbai University. It's a Somaya college here. So we both met during our first year itself. So we were classmates and we were tinkering around, multiple projects, electronic projects just for hobby. So that's how we met so this is back, of course, eight years back, probably. Yeah.
Wow. So you got the idea 8 years ago?
Not exactly. It was not an idea. This is when we met then, and we were just tinkering around multiple other electronic projects apart from this one. So this started later on when we, after we passed out from our second year of engineering.
Okay.
So then we were actually working with the R&D center of our college. So it is called as Riddle. So we were working with Riddle for some home automation projects and stuff like that. And then we got an opportunity to meet the chairperson of National Association of Blind. So that is where he suggested that why don't you make a chessboard on which even a visually impaired person can play chess with the computer, because they find it a bit difficult to play on the computer screens and app screens like we do. So hence, why don't you make a physical chessboard for them? So that's where we took it up as a challenge, and we started working on a automated AI powered chessboard. So those were the initial days where we were actually making a chessboard for visually impaired people. Later on, we
Got it.
transitioned.
Excellent. So this was basically a college project.
That's correct. Yes.
Right.
Just for hobby.
So what? Just for hobby. That's
Yeah.
brilliant. So what was that point when you guys felt कि यार ये project तो अच्छा चल रहा है, अब इसको धंधे में convert करते हैं? Like, when did you think that you can actually spin this off as a proper business?
Right. So in 2014, when we made our first prototype for visually impaired people, that time we got an invite from Maker Faire in Rome. So we told our college that we have this opportunity in hand. We pitched our idea, we showed our product to them, to the entire committee, and then the Somaya Trust, they sponsored our trip to Rome, and they enabled us to actually visit Maker Faire and showcase our innovation there. So that was our first time we were actually showcasing this innovation to the world. And that time at Maker Faire, people come with families and kids, and so that's where we realized that kids were really engaging with the product. They were feeling like it's a Harry Potter's chessboard. So because pieces were moving on its own, and they were going crazy about it. So that's where we realized, okay, why just for visually impaired people? Why not for everyone? Because people would love to get this experience. People would love to touch and feel things, because as human beings, you would actually want to touch and feel, not just play on screens. So for so we realized, okay, let's go back, make more prototypes, and isko dhande mein create karte hain.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
It was like a dream from the start that maybe after engineering is done, we may take up some jobs or whatever. But the dream was that once in a lifetime, we will introduce a consumer product into the market, which users will be using, and that'll be possible. And yeah, as you said, Maker Faire is where we saw that this potentially could be that product, because people wanted to buy those prototypes. So that's when it was decided.
Awesome. So you guys never had to search for college placements.
Fortunately.
Very cool. Very cool. Rutwez, you want to go next? Hey, Rutwez, you there? We can't hear you.
Yeah.
Okay. Sure. Super. Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. So it was just like जैसे वो होता है ना कि एक अच्छा अभी प्रोटो लेना है आदमियों को ठीक है चलो इसको धंधे में कन्वर्ट किया जाता है तो that is the actual point where you guys can actually think out of the box ki, okay, what is the user centric thing that we can do in our product, right, which will be more attractive, more viable, more applicable for each and every people who are willing to use this thing. So definitely you guys have a point where okay, let's pivot a bit from this point and do something else in this same chessboard only. Right. So wanted to ask that what was that actual point कि आपने pivot किया, or you might have been facing some kind of difficulties कि okay, what was the thing that did not fit in the box and you need to go out of the box, so we need to pivot a bit and we need to more commercial in terms of commercialization as well and technology as well. So what was that point for you?
So one of the key things which we've been doing since the start of our first prototype is taking the product and keeping it in the hands of consumer. As Bhavya mentioned, we've attended Maker Faire Rome. We've attended a couple of other Maker Fairs globally. We've attended IITs and a couple of universities in Gujarat as well. What has been the key takeaway in all of those events is that we take the product, keep it in the hands of consumer, and keep asking them as to what they want to see. because it's important for us to make a product which the consumer wants and not a product which we know how to make easily. So these pivots, not at a large scale, but at a micro scale, we've been constantly optimizing as to what the customer wants. And we've been doing that too often. So by the time when our first product was actually out there on crowdfunding, a lot of consumers had like all the checkbox ticked. Sometimes you want a product, you see a product where like, okay, this takes care of all my needs in all the segments, and that's how we were able to make this that
So
product.
before even we launched our first crowdfunding campaign, we went through 6 to 7 iterations to the product. So first, the major one itself was a chess for visually impaired to a chess for everyone, right? So it was very different than what it was earlier. And then there were minor changes, like initially we had to connect the chessboard to a computer, to a laptop, to set up.
Yes.
But then later on, we made an app, because at that time the world was moving towards app, and then we thought, why not connected board gaming? So then we went to customers, chess players, and took their feedback, and then realized, okay, why not we connect it online, so as to enable people to connect when they're actually apart, but still could play on a physical chessboard. So we added that feature. So we kept taking feedback at every point in time before actually releasing the product out there. But there is always that time where you say, okay, this is it, now it has to go out. Otherwise, what happens is you fall in love with your baby, and then you keep
Correct.
iterating it, and you don't go out in the market. But then at some point you have to be like, okay, this is it, अब जो भी करना है मैं वर्जन 2 में करूंगा या कुछ, but अभी फिलहाल इसको मैं I should be
Let it out of
there
the
out in the market. Yeah.
correct.
So that's what we learned over time, of course. But those were kind of pivots that we did.
Okay.
So before moving on to the next question, I'd like to tell the attendees here that you guys can ask the questions to Bhavya and Aatur directly in the Q&A section, and we will take those up at the end of this session. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, Rutvij, please go ahead.
Yeah, so like you said, like Bhavya said, that you had this iteration and difficulties in connecting with the laptop and on the app itself. So my next question was on it itself only. What was the difficult means? I mean, the toughest part in communications side, not to be more technically brief or a detail in that, but what was the one thing that was the hammer that was hindering you from communications part? I mean, the physical chessboard with the app, or whether it is with the cloud or anything like that.
Sure. I'll share one instance where we really wanted to streamline the customer's experience, because this being a consumer product, and it was something to do regarding our Bluetooth communications.
Hmm.
So we being makers and hackers in our labs, it's very easy to constantly add new features to the prototype which we've made. We connect it to the computer, and the process is okay. You just connect a bunch of wires, and then you are able to add new software, add new functionality to the product. But one of the key challenges which we took some time to solve was the process of doing regular updates to the product while the product is in the hands of the user. Because the challenge here is that if we don't do it right, we could end up delivering a broken product to the consumer 2 or 3 months into his journey of using the product. So yeah, I'd say this is one, and we call it, like technical terms mate, is over the air updates, as we say. And that took us some time to fix and streamline to make sure that everything is working. There had to be like a fallback in place, so that if one of the updates broke the customer's experience, we could easily roll back and things like that. That is somewhere where we spent like a significant amount of time. And these are the kind of challenges that one faces once the product moves from the prototype to the product stage. Like, we never foresaw that this was coming, and because of this, the electronics and the hardware systems which we had designed was not built for such capability. But then we had to redo and re-engineer a lot of things, but it went well. And luckily, yeah, we haven't had any complaints regarding this so far.
Right. So we have Radhika here with us. I think she has joined. So
Hey,
let's
hi Radhika.
Hi.
Over to you, Radhika.
Hello. Hi. How are you guys?
Good, good. How are you doing?
I'm doing good as well. Well, I wanted to know that, okay, how this whole process of crowdfunding and I mean, I've heard that you guys did pretty great in the funding and all. So, what are the things that you feel are going to make it a success? Like, if we want to do something in that. So,
Right. So there are like few things. First of all, when you think of crowdfunding, first question is why should you do crowdfunding? So it is mainly to validate the product, validate the market for the product. If you are making some unique product, so because what we did was very unique. There's nothing similar out there in the market that we are doing in the entire globe. So we thought, okay, why not just put it out on a crowdfunding platform and see how it performs, so that even before we launch it in the market, or let's say raise some money from investors, we can actually validate the market if people actually want it or not.
okay.
So that's the first reason for us to do a crowdfunding thing. And second is, of course, that you would require some initial funding to manufacture the product. So that's how our initial thoughts were. So then you usually need 4 months of preparations before you actually launch a crowdfunding campaign. This So let's say you have a great product in hand, that's what you believe in, and then you want to put it on crowdfunding. Then first you, of course, build a good team for marketing, content and stuff, because you need a great video for crowdfunding that tells your entire story. It's not just about the product, it's a story that you build around the product, right? It's a story that you're selling, and it's not the product that you're selling. So uh, basically you tell that why you need this money for, what all iterations that you went through, and what is the problem that your product is actually solving. So these kind of things. So we always believe that the backers on crowdfunding are actually one kind of investors, right? At this early stage, they are investing in us. It's a small money, but still they're investing in us at that early stage, and it's a risk that they're taking. So it's important for us to convince them that yes, we are trustworthy, good people that will work on this product with full determination and deliver the product to you in the given amount of time. So so that's what the entire crowdfunding page is about, that you build. So it's kind of a website that you're building, that's a crowdfunding page. And of course the video that I spoke about, and then there are good product pictures and a good story. So all this collectively builds a good crowdfunding journey or a story. So we what we did was we had raised a small amount, about a $50,000 equity funding, just to do this crowdfunding thing, because we had to build a small team who would take care of marketing and content, because we are techies, right? We always need a team to support this. So we did get some people on board to take care of marketing and creating content, post which we went to China to figure out manufacturing, just initial, so that when you actually go out for manufacturing, things don't go drastically wrong in terms of the initial bill of materials that you have thought of. So you need to get onto a final selling price. So for that you need to know your cost of materials. So those kind of things. So, and post which we launched our crowdfunding campaign.
Okay. Wow, thank you so much. Well, so now like talking about the products and manufacturing the board and all. So how does the whole process of getting it into production, with the base and like getting the final product out in the market, like how does that take place on a usual, day-to-day basis?
Right.
Sure. So I'll just give you an idea. When we started off, we just had one prototypes, which was derived from a couple of iterations, and we took that to China to get started with our manufacturing. But over there, things work very differently. Like for a manufacturer, they are going to invest a lot of resources in setting up an assembly line for you. So we just hacked a couple of parts and we got a prototype together, but that was not good enough to give to the manufacturer to get started. We had to give them detailed specification down to every switch, the dimensions, the resistors, capacitors in terms of electronics, and in the hardware also. a lot of material specification had to be done. Like even if we say this is plastic, then the grade of the plastic to the color, if it's like a red color, it doesn't work that way. There has to be a color code to the part, down to all this. So it took us some time to break down everything again and get the exact specifications of all these parts. Once these were there, we realized that we did not have a few parts which we had in India while making the prototype are not available in China. So we had to get cross paths in place and make like a golden sample in China, working alongside our manufacturer to say, okay, this is what we want to manufacture, and this has been tried and tested with us. That process itself was very tedious because a lot of times you just don't get the exact same part that you had over here, and when you apply a cross part, the output or the functionality may not be uh, what you intended. So once all that is streamlined, we worked alongside our manufacturer to find vendors for each and every part. There are over 150 parts which go in our products. So we had to find those 150 vendors, do the necessary negotiations and planning that they will be able to deliver uh, X amount of quantity as per our need and things like that. And once all those things were done, we ran like a pilot of, let's say, about 100 to 500 units. It can vary depending on the client's need. So we did 100 units to see if everything is falling to place, because sometimes it's easy to miss out the smaller finer detail. So once the pilot was done, we again had one smaller round of iteration where we streamlined a lot of processes, assembly processes. And post that, it was easy. We had to do a lot of documentation for the workers, because for the workers it's just step A, B, C. You cannot leave it up to their judgment to decide if this is the right way to do it or no. You just have to tell them that this is how you do it and exactly this. And if some part is not working right or not fitting right over here, you just count it as defect, but you move on. And that's how we were able that's how optimization and speed is achieved. So once we had the documentation in place, and then the workers were able to start with the assembly. And in the meantime, all this took like a lot of planning, because right from the time that you order raw materials to the time that they arrive in your warehouse and all the documentation is done, it takes anywhere between 2 to 3 months. And after all this, of course,
All in all,
yeah.
saying that all in all, we spent over 12 months in China personally. It was a bit difficult because we are vegetarian there as well. But yeah, what Aatur is saying is that from scratch, if you start from a prototype to mass manufacturing, if your product is a bit complicated, you need some patience there, and there's going to be a lot of challenging journey, because prototype is one thing, right? But if you are trying to replicate that prototype into thousands of units, there has to be a lot of more things which goes into it before you actually reach the customer.
So I would like to, just a second, Radhika, I would like to ask a follow-up question here. So you guys are the experts in crowdfunding, as I can see, but a lot of companies have, failed in 3D printing, in laser cutting, in other, toys and other, equipments. So what is the secret sauce for, a successful crowdfunding? So is it, if it's, packaging the product in a, proper way, then please guide the, attendees here on how you did your marketing of the product.
So I will add an extension to your question, Kiyur. And what are the smart moves that we can move in crowdfunding?
You want to take that?
Yeah, sure. So I think, there are some general, I wouldn't say it's a secret sauce that we particularly have, but there are some general steps that you have to follow, if you want a great successful campaign. So let's say, you start with first of all, good product and a great story around it. And if you are able to convince people that you really have a genuine story and a great product, people will definitely buy it. So it of course starts with the product itself, that there should be need for that product. There should be the product should genuinely be solving a problem, and post which you start with the story, and then I wouldn't say product packaging or anything is important there. You have to be very genuine to the backers, saying, this is exactly why I need the funds, and I need your support for. So we follow some steps, like, before the campaign, 2 months before that, we start collecting signups, from whoever, people they are interested can sign up on our website and through Facebook or something. And then when we go live, we send out emailers to all those people who had signed up, and they are eligible for the super early bird discount. So they can actually come and back us in the initial days, because super early bird is very limited. So that's the crucial part where we collect sign up. And if your campaign is successful in the first 24 to 48 hours, then there is a snowball effect which comes into picture. So because then, automatically Kickstarter sends out newsletters, and then there are a journalist who starts writing about you, or there are some bloggers who starts writing about you, because you have a great start. So then that snowball effect starts, and you automatically start raising more funds. But of course, I mean, PR, marketing, and content is the key over here, because all you can tell people is the story, because you don't have a product out there in the market. So all you have to say is the story. So how well you tell the story and how far it will reach is important. So these two factors, I would say, the way you craft the story and how far you are able to make it reach. So how we do it, of course, is via Instagram, Facebook, Reddit, and platforms like that, where we are able to actually convey our story and share our story, and through which we generate our leads. The leads come to our crowdfunding page, where they see our video and the entire page that we have made. And if they're convinced with the product as well as our ask and the story, they will back us. So again, the crucial part, I would say, to start with whether it is crowdfunding or in fact it is a company, it would always be a good product and a great team.
So
That would make you.
I'll just add in here. There is one more secret element. What Bhavya mentioned is all that we need to take care. That is, pre crowdfunding and during crowdfunding. These are very important for your crowdfunding to go a success. But as a business, if you need to go success, there is two key elements which are very important when you're doing crowdfunding, and that is post crowdfunding. You need to make sure that you have planned for your logistics well in advance. And second is the communication of it, because a lot of times the experience that a user gets after the campaign has ended ends up becoming very poor, where the team is just too busy, they don't respond well in time, they don't share sufficient information, there is not much clarity. Because crowdfunding is a campaign where everyone knows that this is a risky investment. This is to support a vision, a dream, and this product may or may not become a reality. But at the same time, keeping your backers engaged about the entire process is very important. This is post, and the logistics of it, like when you go into practicality, and when for something like crowdfunding which is global, the challenges are endless, where you have to ship it to the remotest parts of the world. People, they move on, their address changes, and they've shifted houses because 1 year has passed since they initially backed your project and things like that. So planning well in advance for issues like this uh, enables you to give a very seamless experience to the user, and that's what matters. Because no matter how good your product is, if the user has had like a great amount of difficulty accessing you or even receiving the package, then he's not going to be happy and not be very positive about it right from first. But if all this goes well, and then add to the fact that you have a great product, the use case is great, then this really adds to the experience, and it helps you build your business further, because these are the people who are your early evangelists, right? They're going to say and speak about you once they've experienced it, and you need their positive feedback to grow your business post crowdfunding. So he said pre, and this is what you need to take care post crowdfunding as well.
This I
Cool.
really got so much clarity in this, on how to raise crowdfunding in pre and post as well. So I'd like to add a point here, like, when I was in Mumbai in, visiting Riddle, I saw your board there, and I took the video of it. Because I was so fascinated by it, and I still have that video with me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So the next question I have, guys, is so you mentioned that before you guys started crowdfunding, you did raise a seed round of $50,000.
Right.
Right. So now this is before. So how did that process go? Because you have a hardware product, and convincing people to put money into a hardware product is not something that is as easy as software. So how did you go about the seed round? Was it friends and family, outside investors? Can you just walk us through that?
Sure. So I think first of all, our investors were, one of the investor was the chairperson of Somaya Trust himself, Mr. Samir Somaya. So he was there. So investors are usually following your journey. So whoever invests in you is not like अच्छा एक महीना देखा और invest कर दिया. Usually ऐसा नहीं होता. If
Got it.
they usually try to follow you for 5-6 months, try to know you, especially during initial stages. It's the money that is at very very high risk, because business अब तक कुछ बना नहीं है. So what they are putting money is on you as a person, as a founder. It's not the product, because product तो ठीक है, आज है कल नहीं है, कल शायद product नहीं चल रहा है, market change हो गया है for any reason. तो initial seed round है, in fact initial 1-2-3 round तक people are putting money on you and not the business or not the product. So it's the founder himself. So you have to connect with your investor. You have to make that bond initially, make them trust in you. And of course, that's first thing that I would say an investor would see in you. And second is, of course, the product and product market fit. So overall market size should be what you are now. Has to be a key problem that you are solving, and of course, a great solution that you are offering. Then second is the addressable market. So you have to show that there is a big market. Third is that you have to show that yes, your prototype is working and people are actually looking for something like this, and there is some demand for your solution. So that is again basically I would say traction. You have to say show some amount of traction. For in our case, we said okay, so at that time what we used to do is we were getting so we did not have any funds before that, right? But we still because it's a hardware product, we needed some fund to complete our R&D. So what we used to do is we used to participate in competitions. We used to participate in fest by IITs, and there we used to win some 10,000 20,000 rupees prize money, and then that we used to invest back in our R&D. So those kind of small stories or small achievements also makes an investor think that okay, this guy is actually determined to complete this, or take this through, and he will not waste my money, or he will actually return me something more on this investment. So at the end of the day, what he's looking at is a multiple of what he's investing in you. So how do you convince them on that? So those you think sometimes from their side also, okay, अगर मैं पैसा डाल रहा होता तो what would I be looking at? So that's what we did. We showed them the prototype. We showed them the traction that we had, that these kind of people are actually interested in buying our product. So it can be sign-ups, it can be pre-orders, it can be some purchase orders, anything. So some traction, and then the future plan for 3 years, that this is what these many units are what we are going to sell in the next 3 years, and this is the amount of profit that we will be making as a company, and hence you will also be making money. So don't worry, your money is safe. So that's what I mean. We tried to did. That's how we tried to convince 2 of the angel investors and raised 30 lakh rupees. At that time, unfortunately, we did not see a lot of government grants and all that we have right now. But yeah, so hence it was a bit difficult, and as you said, hardware is always hard. So it's not easy to get investors invest in hardware. But again, we said we have this educational background of electronics engineering, and we have already made so many prototypes by ourselves. by getting money from these kind of competitions, and also which convinced them, okay, that these guys are determined and कुछ ना कुछ तो कर ही लेंगे. So ये कुछ ना कुछ तो कर ही लेंगे is very important in the initial stage कि भाई लौंडा अच्छा कुछ ना कुछ तो कर ही लेगा.
That's brilliant.
And also
So
the golden number is 100:1. So if you speak with 100 people, one will get convinced. And until you haven't spoken with 100 people who have refused, you should not be upset.
we are all sailing in the same boat. So, that's awesome. That's really cool. Okay, so you guys, you raised the seed money. You had a great crowdfunding campaign happening. Tell me about your first sale. So you guys maybe this was before crowdfunding. I'm not sure, but the first board that you guys actually got paid for, when did that happen? What was the feeling like to get money for your product?
How long did it take?
And how long did it take? Sure.
Yeah. So we started this as a project in 2014 January, and we got our first order in 2016 January. So this was before our crowdfunding, and this was by Asha Jadeja Motwani. I believe you guys already know her.
Right, of course.
So Asha Jadeja has this Maker Fest in Ahmedabad every year. So we were presenting there, our prototype there, and she came by our booth, and we explained the product and everything. She loved it, so she said, how much are you selling this for? And of course, we did not have a price set to it because it was just a prototype. So we both just discussed, and we said, okay, 35,000 rupees. So she said, okay, I'll buy it. And like, okay, wow, 35,000 rupees, wow. So we did not know how are we actually going to deliver, but we knew okay, पैसा आ रहा है boss, कुछ ना कुछ हो ही जाएगा, चलो. So we went back. We took a month to make a unit for her, and that time the experience overall, ये app वगैरह इतना अच्छा नहीं था. Experience wasn't seamless, but within a month we worked day and night to actually make that product work, and not just work but to give out a great experience, because that was in our thought process from the very beginning कि user 6 साल का बच्चा हो या 60 years का old man, सबके लिए user experience should be so smooth and good that he comes again and again to play with it. So वो हमें देना था to her also as our first customer. So we worked day in day out, and we finally delivered the first board to her within a month. So let's say we took 2 years from our first day to this, a lot of patience, and yeah, it came up abruptly where she said, okay, I'll buy it.
That's amazing. So basically you guys got the money first and then you guys shipped it in a month.
Yes, that's correct.
That's awesome. Very cool.
Well, so like in this journey of your startup becoming into such a successful company, obviously startup में ups and downs आए होंगे. So if you can share some of the mistakes that you guys think you made during this journey.
So I'll tell you one of the things, like one thing, we as engineers loved our product so much that we kept it in the lab for quite some time, and even during the manufacturing stage we were so much in love with it, and we wanted to do this for our customers that we kept on adding like a lot of functionality, a lot of features, kept on testing, and we were essentially chasing the perfect product. But then once it was out there, we realized that some of the things which we thought needed perfection were in our mind, the customers enjoyed it more, and some of the things which we thought we had to work on, maybe the customer didn't want it so much. So I'd say that was a learning. It was a key learning for us, is that once we are out with the engineering mindset, we need to really think as per the customer, and the sooner you're able to get your product in the hands of the customer, the better it is. The perfect product is the product which is in the hand of the customer and not sitting on your table. So that was a learning, and I'd highly recommend that to all of you out there, that if you are working on something, then your aim should be to give that in the hands of customer as soon as you can, and not worry about it failing, not worry about the customer liking, disliking. Just make sure that the essential things that you think should be there are done, and you give it to the customer. And there will always be product iterations and improvements in the making. And that's how the life cycle of any product works. But we learned it with the hard way. I'd not say it was too bad. The product came out well, but we could have got it out in the market sooner.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else, like maybe for funding or for marketing or
So
Uh,
in terms of
yeah.
funding, I would say we have been bit lazy or setback whenever we go out for funding. So we always feel, okay, we are a bit late. We should have been out in the market earlier, because we always expect हाँ पैसा तो आ जाएगा, या तो we'll be like अच्छा हाँ 6 महीने में पक्का फंडिंग हो जाएगी. But ऐसा होता नहीं है. You end up like, because market scenarios and your company scenarios always, there are a lot of variables for funding. So that is, I would say, एक बार नहीं, हमने 2-3 बार mistakes किए, that we don't go out in the market for fundraising well in advance, and then we realize, okay, we are a bit too late for this, because you need to have at least at any given point 12 months कम company के पास runway तो होना ही चाहिए before you go out for fundraising. So and otherwise what happens is there is a lot of pressure on yourself and your team members also. Okay, company के पास पैसा नहीं है boss, so let's conserve money and let's not do that, let's not do this, and there will be cuts in some budgets or salaries, and things like that. So you don't want to end up in that scenario. And it's important that when you raise sufficient amount of money so that you can achieve some key milestones, so as you can go out again and raise a series A or a bigger round, basically. So that's important, that you, first of all, whenever you raise a sufficient amount of money, and second is, whenever you go out, you make sure that you have sufficient time, so that you have the upper hand and not the investors. Otherwise you end up giving out more equity, and you end up getting lesser
that's a
valuations.
very good point actually, yeah. Because वही है कि अगर आप इतने efforts लेते हो, and if you're still not trying for the sufficient amount that is required by the company, फिर then you have to put in efforts के okay अभी ये चीज में नहीं, अभी ये चीज में डालते हैं, and that can actually cause more delays in the whole process.
Correct. Yeah. So that's the second thing that I would like to include over here in terms of mistakes.
Okay. And so, like, what would be the 3 takeaways from your beautiful journey so far?
You should hire like a great team when you're building team. You as a founder should invest a lot in team building personally, and you make sure that the team, like, your business or your company is everything that the team is. So you should really get great talent, and talent whom you resonate with, whom your ideologies resonate with. That's really important. And we've been very fortunate enough in our journey to have some really great and super talented team members. And another thing would be that in business, you should really try and master the art of quick decision making. We ourselves learned this over time. A lot of times what happens is, for young businesses, they take too much time to decide. Either it's a yes or a no, or taking a decision about a product feature, about a launch date. You spend too much time in that phase, and that is really crucial time which builds up. So really you should be focused in making sure that you take the decision and stick by it. If it's wrong, you will learn over time and improvise, but otherwise just take that decision as soon as you can.
So I have a question here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's just, out of the box, but how difficult was it for you to convince the particular audience, which was, already playing online chess games, online chess games for, कोई tablet से खेल रहा है, कोई mobile से खेल रहा है, या कोई simple they are playing online, right? So how difficult what was it for you to convince those people? नहीं, I mean, what was that one-liner that you pitched to that audience, to those people who are playing online chess, particularly, to
Yeah.
be
So
very precise?
in one line or in few words that we tell them is that what we are selling is an experience. That
Correct.
experience that you cannot get on a screen.
Online.
So we always say that what we are selling is an experience, because people always come up and say, okay, मैं 400-500 डॉलर क्यों spend करूँ when I can play for free on an app. So
Correct.
it's for the experience that you're paying for. So because as a human being, you always want to touch and feel things. So it's like e-commerce versus buying from a store. You always want to go and experience the product, and then whatever the price is, you decide from whether you want to buy from e-commerce or what. But basically, as a human being, you always want to touch and feel things. So yeah, in one line, I would say we are selling an experience.
Right, that's very crisp and clear. Those audience will, definitely will be hammering that. Okay, yes, that is good. We will like to really touch and feel the game rather than just playing online and just pretending to
Correct.
play online. Actually,
Right. So just to be a bit more descriptive, it's always important that you know your target market, you know your customer is who your customer is, right? So
correct,
for us, I would say, it's a subset of what the whole set is, what you are describing as online chess gamers, right? Or online chess players. So let's say there are 600 million people across the globe who know how to play chess. So now that is one thing. So from that 600 million people, let's say there are 100 million people across the globe who play chess on apps or on computer screens. And out of those 100 million people, there will be, let's say, 1 million people who have sufficient annual income, or the need or the desire to buy my board. So there would be 1 million people out of those 100 million people who would want to buy that board. So that's how, I mean. And then how does your customer look like? Is it what's his gender, what's his age, what's his annual income, where does he live, how many kids does he have, what are his interests, what is his hobby? All of those things you should know if you are targeting a customer. And if you are so this all these things you wouldn't know at the very beginning. You will always know after you start selling and doing some A/B testing and stuff like that. So you will know your customer over time. And but it's very important that you keep analyzing all your marketing methods and all your ads and stuff to come to a conclusion on who your customer actually is and how does he look like.
correct, correct. Right. Yeah. So, I mean, just I'm extending the hardware thing uh, in the Indian ecosystem. So, what are your views on hardware ecosystem for the India or Indian market? What are your views on not being specifically for games or anything or specific
Yeah.
sector, but on in general, what is the ecosystem like?
So we feel that, to be honest, I mean, there are very, very few handful of hardware startups in India as compared to the software startups or the SaaS-based startups that we have. We have always been known for that. Okay, India is great for software and China is great for hardware or manufacturing. So this is what we have always heard and grew up with. But over the time, what we have seen that there is tremendous talent in terms of hardware also in India, but people are just a bit scared to start with hardware because everyone knows, I mean, it's difficult, right, than a software thing. So but still there is tremendous talent, but in terms of manufacturing for startups like us, it's still difficult to set up manufacturing given the kind of manufacturing ecosystem that we have in India as compared to China. So people always ask us, okay, why are you going to manufacture in China and not India? It's not for the cost. So first thing that we come up with is अच्छा सस्ता बन रहा होगा चाइना में इसलिए जा रहे हैं चाइना सस्ता प्रोडक्ट बनाना है. But that's not the truth. I mean, China is so much expensive in terms of labor as compared to India. People don't realize that when you have not actually been to China, but in terms of labor, it's so much expensive. But we're still manufacturing in China. It's because of the ecosystem that they have for manufacturing, the kind of consistency for the quality product that they make, and I would say they have done this manufacturing since so long. It's equivalent to the software things that we do in India, right? So we are so good at software that people from all across the globe come to us for software. Similarly, it's the ecosystem in China for hardware or manufacturing that people go to China for manufacturing.
Cool. So I have one final question from my side, guys. So what are you guys doing right now? What are the two of you up to right now, and what does the future hold in store for you guys? What is the coming few months, or what are the future plans?
So, to sum it up in one line, what we both are working on at a vision level is we want to work on new age toys and games which are powered by robotics and AI for children. And the reason being for this is that toys. Toys and games these days are not really meaningful for the new kids, like new age kids. They have their iPads and phones and things like that. YouTube is there which they engage on. So there is not really value add in terms of engagement which makes the user stick around for a longer time. So we are working on solving those issues. And just to give you a bit of a peek of what's coming in the immediate future, is that we're working on a platform where you can play multiple board games but on a single hardware. So think of it like an Xbox for board games, where you can change the top surface, play any other game that you want. And we're thinking of this as like an open community where people can design their own board games and share it within their group. And yeah, everyone can download that game with just an update on the app. Maybe if it needs top graphics to be changed, then they can just print it or order it online, and then but play on the same board in a connected fashion. So yeah.
That's amazing. That's in a time of iPads and iPhones, you guys are revolutionizing the way games are being played. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, because we feel that the biggest problem is that kids these days, they are just on screen all the time. Like wherever you
Yeah.
go, there's TV in the house, there's this laptops, iPad, iPhones, whatever. I've seen kids age 2 years, they know very well how to skip ads on YouTube. And then I've seen kids, less than 12 months old, they will not eat if they do not have a phone screen in front of them. So we feel that these kind of things are really harmful. So yeah, that's the space we are in.
Yeah, I'm done from my side. Unless guys, you have any other questions to add?
I would like to ask you guys a question. So
Yeah.
you know each other since long as a co-founders. You started your journey in the college, and then since like almost 8 years now.
Yeah.
So name one thing that you both like as a co-founder in each other, and one thing that you can't tolerate in each other.
Okay, you go first.
Okay. I
Don't
think
reveal the secrets, huh?
भाई तू झगड़ा करवाएगा अभी रहना है साथ में आगे. So yeah, I think one thing that I like about him is that he's kind of that I would say genie kind of a person for tech, that he can actually get his hands dirty with anything, and he can get into anything and solve any kind of a tech problem that we may have. Because when we started, we were just two people. We had to build an app, we had to build a website, we had to write firmware for the board and stuff. But he could actually do anything and everything that we were wanting, or we needed that time. So though I'm an engineer, I'm really bad at tech, I would say. So hence I take care of the business part, but he is really, really good at it, and he can get into anything within few days. I mean, he doesn't know that from the beginning or from educational background, but he'll just say, okay, I'll do some research, and I'll do it for 2-3 days, and I'll get back to you. And then he'll be done. Like day in, day out, he'll be reading about stuff, and he'll build that skill within few days. So that's great about him. One thing that I can't tolerate is that he wants to get into uh, you know uh, he wants to do everything by himself. So he doesn't want to delegate stuff to others. He'll be like, nahi, ye main karunga. He'll be like, wo bhi main karunga, wo bhi main karunga. And then there will be issues with timelines and delays or stuff like that. Or but usko sab cheez khud hi karni hoti hai. So he's not that good at delegating, and that's my thing. Like, I mean, I can't tolerate.
Okay. So
So
what was your next?
from my side, my shortcomings that he mentioned is where he really excels at. That is things that's got to do with management. We both are young founders, with limited experience. But one thing I really like about where he's good at, and he can take charge of things, the whole management, the organization process, be it within our team or be it with external parties whom we engage with. He's really able to manage things well. And yeah, I mean, on things that I don't like, which I probably shouldn't say, but I think so. He gives a lot of detailed feedback, which really adds to the work that you have to do when something is there. So I'll give you an example. When we have releases or when we have product features coming out, and he'll see it for the first time, and there'll be like a long list of feedback which will coming in. So that this is gonna keep you up at nights trying to go and fix this. Yeah.
It's like a perfect combination of a tech guy and a management guru, like a Jobs and Wozniak.
We've been fortunate to.
Yeah, it's important that you have complementing skills, and overall in terms of nature also you should complement each other. So that makes a perfect pair for co-founders.
So one last question before we move ahead for the questions from our attendees. So how do you think can hardware, the founders who are in hardware space can leverage this lockdown period, since the lockdown has been extended to 3rd May? How do you think can hardware guys leverage it?
So my thoughts is that because we all are like young entrepreneurs, just starting out in our entrepreneurial journey, this is like probably the best time. I'm saying this from my personal experience to try out new technologies and optimize your products, because we've seen that we've had like we'll be having a long list of wish lists which we will think that we will solve this in the long run, in the long term, or when we get the time to do so. Now is that time to go and iron out all these things. There's a great saying that says that when the market or when the business, when external opportunities are coming, you focus on those. But when that's not happening, you focus on your internal opportunities. And I think this is that time to go and fix your internal opportunities to make sure that your product is really in place. And it's also a great time to explore new technologies. So on hardware, uh, you really you can make use of this time to make and break things and fail as many times as you want. And yeah, people should utilize this time for that.
Yeah, so basically focus on product engagement. It depends on what stage you are in. If you're at an R&D stage, of course you have ample amount of time to make use of. If you already have the product out there, focus on how you can engage the customer more with your product, and how can you improve on features, and how can you maybe introduce new features that was there in the wish list, as Aatur said. So for us, what we are doing is focusing more on the product engagement part and introducing more and more features through the app. And because of course, I mean, as we all know how the market is right now, so focusing more on the product engagement matrix.
And also I've seen we do this quite a bit, and I've seen bigger companies do this, is that speak with your customer. Like, this is the best time when your customer is also available. So if you ask politely, and if you have a significant customer base, directly speak to them, understand why they are using your product, why they are not using the product, and what they like, don't like. And it's the best time to share the things which you are working on with your customer and ask them candid feedback. Hey, we're working on releasing this in the next 2 months, do you like this? And yeah, I mean, that'll give you clear cut answers if your next 2 months should be invested in that feature or not.
Wonderful. So due to time constraints, we would be only able to take 2 questions from the attendees. So first question, when should one go for crowdfunding? How can you define that stage? Is there any?
So there are two kind of people that I would say. For if I would give my personal opinion, then it's when you have a stable prototype. That's when you go out for crowdfunding, because that's when you also have a lot of clarity in your head Otherwise, a lot of time what people do is they just have an idea and a very crude prototype. They let's say it's just an alpha prototype that they have. They go out for crowdfunding, but then at that point in time you might not have a lot of clarity, let's say, about the bill of materials, or how are you going to manufacture it, where are you going to manufacture it. Again, you don't want to take someone's money and fail, right? So it's better that you have some clarity throughout the journey, and then you go out for crowdfunding.
And also crowdfunding is like a full-time job. I've seen a lot of times people sharing with me in discussion that, hey, I'm working on this job or I'm doing this internship, but I have a separate idea of my own, and I think I'm gonna put it on crowdfunding, and they assume that they're going to make millions out of it, but it doesn't work that way. You have to treat this as a full-time job. You can't be working on something else along with this. It takes up more time than you have in a day. So yeah, you should factor that in.
So last question is from Harsha. Platforms like Kickstarter do not allow Indian bank accounts. So have you registered a firm in US, or how do you run a crowdfunding campaign in India, being an Indian company?
There are two ways you can solve this. One is that if you have a friend or acquaintance in the countries, like some 17 or 18 countries which Kickstarter allows, if you have a friend who is close enough and is willing to take entire responsibility of the campaign by listing the campaign under their name and under their bank account, then you can do that. But trust becomes very important, because you can harm their reputation, and legally they can be under the scanner if you don't deliver to your promises. And likewise, your funds could be frozen once the campaign has ended, so you've done everything on your brand and your reputation, right? And then you don't get the funds, or some screw up happens. So these are the two challenges. If you're confident that this will not occur and you trust this person, then you can do it. And the other way to do it is just go online on Stripe, spend around $500, get a bank account and a company registered in the US, and then you can just ask a friend who is an acquaintance or a friend in the US to come and validate your Kickstarter campaign. So Kickstarter will treat this as a campaign which is hosted by your company under your brand name, so you get access to the funds directly. But Kickstarter does need an individual with a social security number to validate their identity. It doesn't legally mean that that person is hosting the campaign, so there is no legal liability on them, but it's still possible. Yeah. These are, and the third way is don't do Kickstarter, do crowdfunding on Indiegogo. They allow Indian companies and Indian founders to do. I have heard really good success stories on Indiegogo as well, so there is no harm in considering that. Both platforms, while they do crowdfunding, they are different in their own ways. So they are not competitors. Some communities are stronger on Kickstarter, for example, gaming, but whereas some communities are stronger on Indiegogo, for example, e-mobility. So you got to take that decision for you.
So Harsh has asked, Indiegogo doesn't allow Indian banks on.
Bhavya, you want to comment on that?
Yeah, that's correct. They recently, about 2-3 months ago or something, they stopped Indian bank accounts now. But yeah, for those also, that as Aatur said, it's the same way as Kickstarter. So you either register a company in the US or get a friend on board who can do this for you. So when we did our first crowdfunding, we got a friend on board, and he did the entire, we collected the entire funds in his own bank, and then he transferred us. So that's how our first crowdfunding was, and then second one we did via our own company registered in the US.
So with this, I would like to end the session, and I would really thank Bhavya and Aatur to take their times out to help all the other entrepreneurs out there. And it was pretty insightful session on crowdfunding and the SquareOff story, and how beautifully you presented it. So I would also like to thank Radhika, Rutvij, as well as Amish to be the panelist and have an interaction with this Bhavya and Aatur. So thank you so much, attendees, for attending the session. With this, I would end the session. Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much,
Thank
guys.
you. Thank you so much, guys. Cheers.
Bye.
Take care.
You
Yeah.
too. Bye-bye. Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Bye.